What's up, Warriors fans? It's your main man, Max, here with Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button if you like what you hear, as I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, we're into week 5 of free agency, and still no moves have been made on the roster. However, there is a particular move that was made on the coaching staff, and that move was bringing in Nikola Milojevic. If I hope I said that name right, as I always get those Eastern European names wrong. But Nikola is a former player over in Serbia whose father Dejan was actually the assistant who passed away, not this past season, but the season before, when he had a heart attack and unfortunately didn't make it. Now, looking at his resume, he is clearly a Nepo baby. There is no doubt about it. He just started his coaching career over in Serbia and then immediately was brought in as a player development coach with the Warriors. So we know this guy was hired mostly because of his late father, and at least he has some of the backings to become a good coach, but they're really betting on his potential as a player development coach as well as as a connection to the Serbian leagues, because he knows good players and knows what to look for. Say, when you're looking for a guy out of Serbia in the second round, say, hey, we should invest in this guy and develop him because he's got great potential. And a lot of those guys over in Serbia, you're not going to find too much information on them because there isn't a lot of video on them. So, with modern day scouts, what they do is they tend to just go and see guys in college. They don't get a lot of information of the guys overseas that aren't like mainstream EuroLeague. If I remember correctly, years ago when Phil Jackson decided to draft Kristaps Porzingis, he drafted him based off information he got from a very close personal friend that saw Kristaps play over in Seville and said, you got to invest in this guy. And I believe this is the same situation with Nikola. Yes, he's only been a coach in, professional leagues for the past year after graduating college. So that's a big jump to go from, I believe, the Serbian league all the way to the NBA. Because plenty of guys work their way up, take time to make that jump, especially in America. We look at guys that go from coaching high school, being an assistant over with a college program, and then they'll eventually become an assistant with an NBA team and maybe get a shot as an NBA coach should the opportunity present itself. But I'm okay with this being a Nepo baby hire as long as things pay off. And it's not that big of a deal, mostly because, yes, he is a player development coach. And if you want a player development coach, you want him young, somebody who can relate to the younger players, and somebody who actually knows the overseas system. So I do see this playing out very well. And if it doesn't play out, you can easily cut him at the end of next season. It's not like he has a long-term contract that they're stuck with like other teams do, say when Mike Brown was fired or when Tom Thibodeau was fired or even Monty Williams. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's clearly a Nepo baby hire. And let's be honest, this isn't the first Nepo baby hire they've made this year on the coaching staff. They also brought up Steve Kerr's son, Nicholas Kerr, to become an assistant with the Warriors. So this isn't something new. I just hope it brings the synergy that the Warriors need on the coaching staff and really helps, the guys on the roster now develop as well as learn how to play and win together. But speaking of Coach Kerr, a very interesting article came out over the weekend and labeled Coach Kerr as one of the most overrated coaches in NBA history. And that's to go along with the likes of Phil Jackson. So when people say that, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Now, there are a lot of Phil Jackson haters out there. There are a lot of Steve Kerr haters out there. But it's gotten out of hand with the Steve Kerr hate because he took over for Mark Jackson, and Mark Jackson is pretty much getting blackballed for the entire league for good reason. If you've ever heard some of those stories that happened while he was at in Golden State, and I'm not talking about the ones where he really that have come out later. I'm talking about the really, really dirty ones. Like, not only the ones where he got into it initially with Brian Scalabrine, or he really got into it or he created such a toxic atmosphere where Darren Erman, one of the assistants over there, had to leave because he was recording players in the locker room because he was so scared for his job. Now he's over as an assistant with the Knicks, so he's all right. But that's the kind of toxic atmosphere that Jackson created. But with Coach Kerr, they like to say, oh, he had stars, developing stars. He had Steph Curry. He had Klay Thompson. He had Draymond. Let's remember the facts here. Prior to Steve Kerr getting there, Steph Curry was Stephen Curry. He wasn't Steph right now. He wasn't doing these magical things that everybody is talking about. And you got to also remember, in 2015, he took a team with the exact same roster as the year prior and took them, made them a 67-win team, and beat the Cavaliers in the finals. And that's with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. So if you're taking the exact same team to the finals that barely got to the second round the year before, it isn't a roster thing, it's a coaching thing. And you could talk about Mark Jackson's ability to really bring up the Warriors to the point where they're a playoff team and no longer a laughingstock in the league anymore. But it was Coach Kerr that got him over the finish line. Now, the other guy they mentioned is Phil Jackson because, you know what, he coached Michael Jordan, he coached Scottie Pippen, he coached Shaq, he coached Kobe, and won, I believe it was a total of 11 NBA championships. 5 with the Lakers and 6 with the Bulls. And they all say, oh, he wasn't a great coach, he just had great players. Now, we got to stop that talk right now. Mostly because just because you have great players doesn't mean you're going to have a great team. The coach is essential in making a championship team. There's an old saying from Greg Popovich where you need full-on synergy with the entire organization. That means you need synergy with the owner and the president of the team, whoever that may be, the president of the team and the GM, whoever that may be, the GM and the coach, whoever that may be, and the coach and his players, whoever they may be. Now, we've seen plenty of good teams that have had really great players, but really didn't do anything. And one of the guys that I always talk about when it comes to overrated coaches is none other than Doc Rivers. He's had great Clipper teams, both with Chris Paul and with the later team with Kawhi and Paul George, and even with the 76ers. Yet he couldn't do anything about it. He just continues to milk that single championship run with the Celtics and sort of covers himself as a great coach. Now, don't get me wrong, he did what was impossible up to that point and took 3 superstars and turned them into a championship team. Now, that had never been done before previously. It's been attempted. You look at it with what the Rockets did with Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, and Hakeem. That didn't work. You look at what Dallas did with Antoine Jameson, Steve Nash, and Dirk Nowitzki. That didn't work, but you know what? That's okay. But you got to love how Doc Rivers did it. But at this point in time, he's been with so many teams. He's got to show us something. Now, that's what an overrated coach does. Now, a great coach knows how to coach great players, and that's what Steve Kerr and Phil Jackson know how to do. And that just completely takes them out of the overrated conversation. Now, you look at what Coach Kerr has done with Team USA. They were on a tough run in the summer of 24 with that basketball team. Yet they were able to pull it out against France, pull it out against Serbia, which is essential for any kind of team. You're going up against great teams like that. You want a coach who knows what he's doing. And not every coach can go to 6 NBA finals. Yeah, he only won 4 of them, but that's still much better than a lot of other coaches. I can't name a single coach outside of Steve Kerr and maybe, I want to say Eric Spoelstra, who've been to that many finals. It just goes to show how great of a coach he is when he can lead with the right players doing the right things. Now, that being said, Kerr has also been a problem as his inconsistency with defining Jonathan Kuminga's role has gotten them to their current stalemate, which they've been in for the past 4 months. Now, me personally, I found that really annoying. I remember watching last year, and I'm like, give this guy a clear role. It should be Steph, Jimmy, Kuminga, um, what's Draymond, and then Kevon Looney and Quentin Post. I believe they should have played together and just found ways. It's like, okay, your turn to attack the basket for Jimmy, and then your turn to attack the basket for Kuminga. Yes, they can't shoot a lick, but you know what? Playing downhill isn't exactly a bad thing, because the most important shot in basketball isn't the three. It's the and one. And let me tell you why. The and one gives you not only a potential three-point play, it also creates two potential points down the road as it gets the opposing team in foul trouble. That's what I love about guys who play downhill. They're going to get attacked, they're going to get hit, and they're going to get to the line. And you could say all day, it's like, oh, he's a free throw merchant. I'm like, what is wrong with free throws? I don't get it. So many people hate on free throws these days. It's like, selling a foul has been a thing since the league's inception in 47. You always want to sell a foul because you get to the line, that's free money. You got no one blocking you. You got no one in your face. They're literally waiting for you to take the shot. You make both of those, you get your 2 points, or sometimes 3, or your and one of the opposing players has an additional foul on him that adds up to eventually getting the bonus. So be a free throw merchant all you want. I'm a big fan of that. Now, when it comes to trading Jonathan Kuminga, I've heard several reports saying the Suns don't have the draft capital that the Warriors want, and I have to disagree on that. They definitely do have that draft capital. The Warriors are just too hyper-focused on getting a first-round pick. And as of right now, first-round picks aren't what the Warriors need. They need draft picks, yes, but they can settle for those second-round picks because those second-round picks allow the Warriors to dictate the contracts that they're going to give their players and say, okay, all right, here's an example. Say Milojevic sees a great player in Serbia that hasn't really gotten much NBA play yet or NBA viewership yet. Like the scouts haven't found him out. They're still looking at guys in college that are sort of bouncing around. Maybe they see some guys over in the EuroLeague or over in the NBL, or best case scenario, they find somebody in the Chinese Basketball Association that they like, and then they draft him. Whereas guys in Serbia, they're not always going to get looks, but if Milojevic sees a guy, you got those extra second-round picks, and you're able to draft that guy out of Serbia, let him develop for a few years, much like Nikola the Joker did when he played under Nikolai's dad, Dejan, over in Serbia. Let him develop and have him come over later. You still have those rights to these players and can still pay them what you want because they're not getting first-round money. Now, that is essential. And I think if they do that and then trade for Nick Richards as well as Royce O'Neal, they'll have a solid starting group to really go into the season with. It's not like they're bad contracts either. They send those contracts out, say they give Jonathan Kuminga the $30 million he wants per year. That means they can only take back 15 in any potential trade. You're giving up Jonathan Kuminga for, let's say, 5 second-round picks that the Suns got in the Durant trade, and then a solid off-ball player in Royce O'Neal who can be a starter, as well as a potential starting center in Nick Richards. Remember, Richards is 27, a 7-footer on an expiring $5 million deal. So that does play well for what the Warriors are trying to do, especially with the 2-year timetable that they have to get Steph at least another championship ring. So I do like that idea, but the thought that they need a first-round pick is completely overrated. First-round picks cost too much, and in a league where the hard cap in the second apron is so scary, you want to find ways to save money because a lot of their cap is going to be contained within Jimmy Butler, Draymond, and Steph. So they just got to accept they don't need a first-round pick. They just need solid rotation players. And it's really on Jonathan Kuminga to become that star that he wants to be. And I think he'll become it with Phoenix, but it still remains to be seen. We can't predict the future, but players in the right situation can do a lot. Now, bottom line is that Coach Kerr knows what he's doing. I have no doubt about that. But going into week 5 of free agency, I think enough is enough for Mike Dunleavy. He's got to he's got to just hammer out a deal and trade Jonathan Kuminga, hopefully to the Suns, get that Nick Richards and Royce O'Neal and those 5 second-round picks that the Warriors can play with later on. Now you get past this whole ordeal and the stalemate that they have with Kuminga, you could start building out the rest of the roster. Okay, say you bring in Nick Richards. Let's say there are certain guys on the roster that don't fit the mold. Okay, you bring in Nick Richards, maybe even you trade for Vucevic again. Bring him in. You got 3 7-footers to go with the backcourt. You have Quentin Post, you have Nick Richards, and you have Vucevic. Boom. That solves your big man problem when you're going up against the likes of Joker, Rudy Gobert, Isaiah Hartenstein, Alperen Sengun, even Ivan Zubac should the Warriors face the Clippers, or even DeAndre Ayton should the Lakers really make that boost going into next season. And best of all, even if LeBron doesn't get bought out, you still have a solid starting rotation. But the fact is, Dunleavy has to just bite the bullet, realize, okay, let's fix it within the timeline, trade some guys, and really build out this roster with the timeline in mind. So that's what I want to see the Warriors do moving forward. And if they don't, I'm still going to be really concerned if they can make that run. Because they look like the hottest team in the NBA after the trade deadline, only to really just blow it in the playoffs in the second round. They shouldn't have let the Rockets go to 7 games, and they should have found a way to beat a lesser Timberwolves team, but they didn't. So it was frustrating to see that. Now that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, like and subscribe, hit that notification button, and if you have some interesting comments you want to make, feel free to do it below, as I love to talk to you guys and really hash it out on what the Warriors should do moving forward. And as always, go Dubs.